Here, here. This May 19, 2026 kgateway community meeting is hereby called to order. I am your maintainer and host, David Chandler. I work at Solo, and I just became an editor to this document, but I don't think I would have added anything to the agenda beyond kgateway 2.3.0. So yeah, what else do we want on the agenda? Please post it in the chat or say it aloud. And as we're thinking about that, I want to welcome anybody who's new. If you're new and you'd like to introduce yourself, please do. You can raise an emoji hand if you don't want to say anything.
Yeah, I am new.
Welcome. Yeah, so what's your interest in kgateway? What brings you here?
Exploring projects of interest on LFS mentorship. I have a bit of experience in technical writing and communications. Recently learned, so I thought it is
Okay. Having some trouble hearing your microphone, but welcome. And I imagine you've already found the CNCF Slack, but if you haven't, I'd like to hang out there in kgateway and kgateway contributors. And anyone else new today? I find that hard to believe, Jason. I think Jason is waving hi to the new person. I've seen Jason here before. Okay. So the previous meeting action items, that would have been the May 5th meeting, and I don't see action items. So you have 5 seconds if you remember an action item not written down. I guess we should go over maybe the previous were not actually done, but were they? The release has been released. KubeCon is done, right? So I don't think there are previous action items, which brings us to new topics. And there's been a lot of competition to officially announce the 2.3 release. Oh no, the person who actually technically cut the release, David Jumani, I don't see you here. So then who's going to say? I will say 2.3.0 is out. The release notes speak for themselves, except they say too much, but a lot of what you've sent us is in there. And yeah, so who can give 2.3.0 a proper welcome? Well, it's got Gateway API 1.5.1. It's got a whole lot of features, too many to name. You can make it run anywhere in any real production setting. File an issue if you think you can. And Andy, do you have anything to say about 2.3.0?
Yeah, I was going to say one big thing is the Gateway API 1.5.1. Another thing, a popular feature many people ask was the ACL feature. That's in there. I kind of want to call out the 2 potential breaking change, which I put in the release note at the very top. Yeah, so the SQL integration. If previously we always watch for the service entry resource without you needing to enable Istio integration. So on this release, you have to enable that for the service entry to be watched. So if you have been using that, that could be a breaking change when you upgrade. And then the other one is related to the Gateway API, the pattern for allow or region. We are following the spec and only accept the correct pattern. The invalid pattern is no longer accepted. Obviously, we accepted it before.
Okay. Anyone else have anything to say about the release? Yeah. We should probably get better about switching to the 2.4.0 - for bleeding edge per commit releases, and also probably when do we declare old versions end of life, and when is the time to do that? I guess those things come up.
Yeah, so I think we have not really agree upon the n minus whatever support level, but it's at least n minus 1. Now that 2.3 is released, so the supported version will be only 2.2 and 2.3. And when I think next time when we start cutting the 2.4 LTS branch, we should update the main field to use a newer version.
Yeah, and I have a sneaking suspicion we haven't done that yet.
No, we have not.
We will. Yeah, so everyone who's shown up, now's the time to nominate things for the agenda in the chat or saying it.
Well, I know someone just pinged me and asked about there was a feature we have, it's called max request size, because that's what Envoy calls it. But under the hood, it's actually max buffer size in memory, because it's from the buffer filter. It actually guard against both request size and response size, even though the name say max request size. So his use case is coming from Nginx. He want to protect from the edge for large requests up to more than 4 gig. So the only thing we have right now is that, which is buffer in memory. Buffering 4 gig in memory is probably not very viable solution. Envoy does support a file system buffer. It does not look too hard to support. It's just basically exposing the config to the API. So it's kind of related to Ingress Nginx migration. People has been using Nginx, they were able to buffer on disk, and we don't have that. I was thinking to reply him to suggest a different way. If he is okay to allow the data to go upstream up to a certain amount without buffering, and once we detect it exceeded the threshold, then we just cut the connection. That should be relatively easy to do with a dynamic module. Because buffering on this sounds pretty crazy to me also.
Yeah, I remember using Ingress Nginx a few years ago, and every time it would buffer to disk, it would print a log statement, which had me feel like maybe I shouldn't have been buffering to disk. Definitely, yeah. When you've analyzed the performance of your system, except it never went to disk, and now it goes to disk, you've got a different system. So a dynamic module. So I don't quite understand, because if you want to reject something, I don't quite understand. So if you want to support a 4 GB request sometimes, but actually accept it, that's one thing. What is this? What is the ask?
The ask is not use up memory, but still allow a huge size threshold to block the request. So I assume currently he would buffer until it reached the threshold and then just send out a false something request. I mean, false something response to stop the request from going upstream. But that comes with the cost of buffering that huge data on every single request. Sometimes they may not be that big, but if everybody go to this, like you said, it will be a different system. But obviously, they have been doing this with Nginx, so they probably know what they're doing. Which we can probably support by exposing the Envoy file system buffer filter. I was just promoting dynamic modules to just count the bytes, and if it exceeds the threshold, just drop the connection. You won't get a nice 403 or whatever deny file size too big response, and you will allow some bytes going upstream. The other reason I thought about using dynamic module was that I assume even with the file buffering, it won't work for WebSocket, which he also went into that problem. When he set the max request size and then send a WebSocket request, it will just hang, because those buffer filter, whether it's file system or memory buffer, they all just buffer until it sees the end of stream from the request, where WebSocket does not have a normal end of stream, because it's dual-packed bidirectional data stream once it's upgraded. On the body, there's no normal end of stream to indicate the request is done, now you can respond. So the file system buffer will not solve the WebSocket problem, which I don't know if Nginx handle that differently, probably.
Okay. Any other topics? If you came here today wanting to say something, now's the time.
So looking ahead, next release, we're trying to catch up on the next release and targeting early July. This 2.3, it took a little longer because of many other reasons. It's supposed to be in April, but end up in May. So next release will be a faster, shorter one. One of the key features we try to get in will be failover, zone-aware load balancing. So all the priority, zone-aware, failover, back-end load balancing stuff is the main focus for next release.
Can you repeat those?
Failover, zone-aware, priority, load balancing.
Okay, so in terms of cadence, we have the kgateway dev community GitHub repository. Basically, I think it says something like every 3 months is the target or something. So did you say, and do you want to say a date for 2.4.0 or an ETA?
Early July.
Okay. If a tree falls in the forest and there's no one around to hear it, did it really fall? In early July, everyone knows tech's not working. They're skiing in Antarctica or something, but yeah, will be working. Okay. Is there a volunteer to be a host for the next meeting? You have to be a maintainer, which makes me think about Peter and Seth and Jenny and Omar and Art, probably. Any volunteers for hosting the next meeting?
Next meeting will be June 2nd.
I could do it. I should be here June 2nd.
Thank you. Yeah, can someone help me with new community contributions to call out? Because I didn't really do my homework. Like, new community contributions come in all the time, including yesterday, someone landed their first PR. I know because I reviewed it, but can anybody help me with specific contributions or the methodology to better be prepared for this one?
So when I host it, I just kind of go to both the docs and the code repos and just open the PRs. And if I don't recognize names, I just assume that they're, fairly recent. That's my methodology. I don't have a list of specific names. I could add it to the end. We do, I guess I just will say a general note. There have been a lot of people who have been applying to the LFX mentorship. Those applications closed. And so as part of that, a lot of people were just, I think, trying to get their feet wet and contributing to the docs. So Kristen in particular has been going through some of these. I've been going through some of them. There are a lot still open, but some have been merged, just kind of small things like typos or link fixes and whatnot. So I just wanted to say kind of a general thank you to everyone, and also appreciate their patience if they're waiting on review responses for that. And yeah, we'll probably get a couple more new contributors in the future as we select the mentee and start working through some of those issues.
Yeah, and just on page 1, Yeah, that's a name that I don't know by heart yet, and I don't know this name by heart yet, and I don't know this name by heart yet. So lots of, and that's just for the code base. And I think I stopped sharing entirely somehow, which is impressive. All right. So that's the end of the agenda, which probably means it's the end of the meeting. But as you know, we follow Chandler's Rules of Order, which means I motion to end the meeting, but it requires a second.
I second.
Are there any objections? Well, then this ends the May 19, 2026 K-Gateway Community Meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.